Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Smiling Friends Season 2. Smiling Friends is interesting because the whole time when I watched Season 1, I thought, man, if they just put this after Rick and Morty, this will be a huge hit. Like, I saw the potential. I thought this is such a fun show. Like, people are going to like this show. This will be one of those shows people who like Rick and Morty or It's Always Sunny will recommend to people like crazy and all that stuff. And it felt like when the first season came out, that wasn't hitting. Like, I'd tell people and they go, I don't know. And then this season, it sort of exploded in popularity, which was surprising, or at least online. I don't think it gets big ratings, but what does that mean in 2024? I mean, it looked like it did well on Max on a top 10 that no one can analyze viewers for and that the network itself tells you about. But reception-wise, I heard a lot more about this season than the previous one. As a fan of the first season, and I really rewatched it a few times and I was into that season, I really did think this was a solid follow-up. It showed not just what was good about this show and Adult Swim shows, but also animation in general, because one of the real things, and I've said it so many times, but it's a real, it's a definite theory of animation, is in animation anything is possible. In live action film, you have to limit your animation because you only can do what's like financially possible or like physically possible, you know, all those things based on technology and stuff. And animation is like, as long as you can draw it or figure out a way to sort of do it, you can do it. And I feel like Smiling Friends, especially this season, is really good at that and being very imaginative and alive. And like, one thing I think a lot about this show, especially when rewatching the season, and I've shown certain episodes to people, is that when I watch it, I think I like the kind of standout, the kind of side adventure episodes that get all crazy, like the Alan adventure about the paper clips, like the Pim and Charlie going to an alien world, or going to an alien party, Pim and the boss going to that weird world. Like, I really like those episodes. I'm not disappointed that they're not with everyone else, you know? It's so fun to watch as a viewer, and my imagination is so unlocked during it. I actually really like those episodes. In fact, the one where called Pim, Charlie, and Bill versus the Alien is, I think, or it was the episode I would show people. And particularly because, you know, there's a lot of cool design in that. I didn't know Red Letter Media was in that. I somehow missed that entirely, that Red Letter Media, like Rich Evans and Jay, are the aliens. Didn't know that. Just didn't know it. Not sure why I didn't know it. I didn't look at the credits. Found that out before shooting this. I was like, oh, well, what do you know? But I'd show that to people. And the ending got everybody I showed it to laugh. Even if they weren't sort of into it, they'd go, okay, I need to check more of this out. Like, literally, it was fun. This was my fun. Like, let me, even though that is not an average Smiling Friends episode. And I think that says something about this show that's very different, because you wouldn't show someone a non-Smiling Friends episode to explain Smiling Friends. Because that episode feels like, that ending is very funny. It's stupid, but it's like, it's very funny. I don't want to spoil that. But same with like the Alan episode, like having him, you know, he can either hang out with his boss and play PS2, whatever game that is, and drink diet soda, which I think is Dr. Pepper, and smoke and stuff like that, or he can go to work, and he goes to work, and like all the designs they have, and like he goes to the Staples thing and they're out of paper clips, and he sees the spider person and he finds the paper clip, and then he's like he's on a fighter jet and he's on a pirate ship, and like all this crazy stuff. It feels like a little kid playing, but it feels like your imagination is on fire, which is something I really actually love about the show. I know it's sort of turned some people off for some reason. They find it too strange. I like shows that are sort of surreal and weird and like open to interpretation in the way this is. I don't think it's too strange, to be honest with you. I think it is, I think it's the perfect amount of strange, and I don't like roll my eyes at like, oh, it's an Adult Swim show, whatever. I've always liked the surrealism and the extremes and the weirdness of Adult Swim shows. I don't exactly understand everyone's thing. I think it is like we live in a lot of people, when they view media, view it in very literal, like, you know, how everyone views everything in like nitpicky, plot holy kind of ways. And I think like Adult Swim is more about sort of the vibe of the experience, as well as, you know, playing with animation where anything is possible. And if you're speaking literally, almost nothing is impossible except for reality. And in animation, reality is something that you can bust impossibly. And I think that's something that nobody, I don't know, the people who are like, oh, that's, you know, too, so these are people who like don't have it. I've heard all this crazy shit, but I do think that is one of the things I really like about it. I like him and Charlie's relationship together. I think all the voice acting is amazing. I like the cameos. The Doug Walker thing was very surprising. I don't know if I feel like I probably got spoiled, but it was, look, I know he's a bit of a controversial figure, but I think when he shows up, we all go, oh my God, look who it is. He's a kind of figure of a certain generation. And I you know, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I thought it was a fun joke, you know, the whole video part in that episode. I think maybe that was the week. I mean, the thing is like there's certain ones that like flow within the season, but I don't like, I rewatched the whole season a second time. I think the succubus kind of wedding thing was a little dumb. I also think the Christmas one was a little dumb, but both of them were kind of like come downs, and then it got crazy again. So I'm sort of a little like okay with them in the grand scheme of the show or the season and the flow of the season. I think that like really, I think made a lot of sense in watching it all in a row. Like watching it week by week, I sort of was like fine with it. It's just a very good, consistent show. But I also like, you never know, like the first episode with the whole Gwimbly thing and having like the PS2 character. I was thinking about it later, and I think it's sort of much like how he's not exactly like whomever that PS2 character is. I don't know video games as well, whether it's like Crash Bandicoot or something. I really don't know that world at all, but it sort of reminded me of the way people are describing him, like even the voice is a certain way, the design is a certain way, but he's not a specific thing, but he still feels a part of that world, much like how Roger Rabbit is sort of a parody of Tex Avery, a part of, feels like he's a Tex Avery character. He's not a Tex Avery character, but he gets that world so well. And I think like their respect for what they're parodying and their love of what they're doing, I know that's been said a lot of times, is really infectious to watch. Like I think like when I look at shows like It's Always Sunny, or you look at even a big sitcom like, you know, like a Cheers or a Friends or The Office or whatever, you can sort of tell like people like sort of being there. Maybe that's all lies, maybe it's not, but you can get that when they're making Smiling Friends. Like you really feel like everybody is kind of like giving it their all, which I think, or at least like trying to make this different kind of weird thing, which I really appreciated about it. I do think it's sort of like nouveau almost Adult Swim, because it's like acknowledging the online world and stuff like that, and like older Adult Swim would sort of like reference things like that, but this is like people who are like raised on the internet come to Adult Swim. It's not like, you know, Aqua Teen Hunger Force or something was born out of like weird stoner cartoonists who grew up watching Hanna-Barbera and then came to Adult Swim. This is like weird stoner cartoonists who grew up on the internet and cartoon and Adult Swim, and it's almost like the children of Adult Swim. I'm kind of curious, like I almost feel like this is the new era. Like Rick and Morty was like the end of something, and that show's not as big anymore. I know a lot of people say this would be the thing on dispensaries now, and Rick and Morty will be out. I've yet to see that. I'm all for that. I hope its fandom isn't as bad as that, but I didn't love when Trump got shot and stuff. They did it with Smiling Friends characters. Made me that I didn't love that, to be honest with you. And I did like their president episode, even though I guess it's not really political. It's pretty predictable, but it was really good, actually. I thought it was one of my favorite modern kind of election parody I've seen. I can't think of a better kind of political parody presently. I know a lot of people attempt them and they're not. Often they're really horrible, but this one was pretty good, actually, with the kind of messy president and the famous line, I think, where Charlie's like turn on the channel, turn on the TV, doesn't like which channel. He's like, doesn't matter which one. I was like, that's sort of become a meme, and you know, I guess we heard it again later. But you know, I think it's just a fine, kind of great comedy show. It continues to be. It's sort of becoming like a reliable thing I can watch to like chill out. Like I have certain shows like that, and I think Smiling Friends season 2 sort of did it again. I'm kind of surprised the consistency of it, and I'm happy more people are getting into it, because it's like not a kind of normal kind of show. It's like a really weird, strange, like the boss like has a dog face and can't turn his face back. Like, why have a whole episode in a George Miller-esque chase scene because he can't find paper clips? Like, why do all that? But it's like the same, it's kind of animation essentials, like the same thing Bugs Bunny or Felix the Cat did. Like, you have them go all over the world and do all this crazy stuff, and it shows the possibilities of the medium, but it also shows like the surrealism of it, and then they always end up in the office at the end. Like it's exactly like Felix the Cat shows up in the bar, goes around the entire world, and shows up at his house at the end. Like it's the same theory, but it's an amazing theory of animation, really. And I hope it doesn't like calm down in those sense, because that's always the problem is, when money comes in and you want it to be more economical, it becomes more like a boring sitcom and less like imagination on fire or something. And that is always disappointing, and I hope it doesn't happen to this show. As for what we have now, I think it is just like very imaginative, very fun. I mean, that's one of the things about the show. It feels very fun. It feels very like off the cuff. It feels like one of the few shows, like the end of that Alien episode and several other moments, they can play a moment that the characters are taking very sincerely, but you as the audience know as a joke. And I think that is, and I'm not trying, I know people say, oh, people's media literacy is low and stuff, and I do actually agree, but I think that does actually take a level of media literacy, because so many people are like, but this is what's presented, so I'm watching it at that level. And like certain moments like that, it's like, no, but this is a joke. That's a joke. But the episode's going to play it off as straight, but they understand that you get that. And I think most shows are not smart enough to do things on that level, to be honest with you. That's a level of media awareness that comes with like watching a lot of movies and TV and cartoons and weird cartoons. And I think that is, definitely something that an Adult Swim show can always nail. I don't know. I think this is a worthy successor to sort of the whole Adult Swim thing. I actually, it makes me excited about Adult Swim. Even though I'm just watching it on Max, it kind of, I don't know, just its presence makes me feel better about it. I should engage more with Adult Swim, but this makes me want to. And I don't know, I think one of the things about when originally Adult Swim came out, I wanted to watch all the shows on it, and I wanted to watch more stuff like that, and this sort of gives me that feeling again, and it makes me excited for this kind of new wave of stuff. I really love this show. I continue to love it. I think it is a great follow-up. I feel like there's almost not really too much to criticize. I guess I didn't love the holiday ones as much, although I did still really like them. It doesn't mind me the joke of them not airing on the holidays, but I guess I could just watch them then. Nothing's stopping me or you. But I sort of think, especially the Christmas one, I mean, that kind of becomes a summer one or something. Anyway, the random assortment of things that is Smiling Friends, but it all sort of like, I think it shows like that you can go off and do all this strange stuff and have a one-off episode and still be as compelled and not want to go to the conformity of the regular episodes that you're comfortable with. And I myself as a viewer didn't necessarily like, I liked both just as much. And I think like that shows, I was thinking about this actually, is like so many movies want to do the Empire Strikes Back thing, where it's like, let's split up the group that made the first movie really popular, and the whole movie they're split up, and then they come together later in the third movie, or like what Guardians did or something. But a lot of movies have tried to do it after Empire Strikes Back. It's sort of always this weird thing, and I don't think it always works well. And I feel like when I watch Empire Strikes Back, I never think, oh man, it sucks I don't see Luke and Han and Leia together. I think I'm so compelled by the story, it doesn't really bother me. I'm just like, man, Empire Strikes Back is really good. And then, I watch Return of the Jedi for that, or the first Star Wars. And in this, I felt sort of similar in that it's like, oh man, this episode with Alan is great. Or Pim and the Boss going to this weird world is great. Things like that don't, or, doing the alien thing, it's like, that's really not about the Smiling Friends business at all. But it's like, I'm so into it, like, who the fuck cares? Like, why, I don't know if the alien one's the best to understand Smiling Friends, but it is fun to see people laugh at the end, I will say. It's a great show. It continues to be a great show, and continues to be a great new step for Adult Swim, and I'm excited for more, and I'm happy that people are into it. Just don't get weird and no more Smiling Friends Trump stuff. That's just stupid. Like, Smiling Friends is better than co-opting it with your bullshit. Let Smiling Friends be its own bullshit. So if you have seen Smiling Friends Season 2 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.